This is Drew with Boomer Music Company, your band and orchestra experts since 1976, and thepodcastingstore.com, the one-stop shop for all things podcasting and remote learning. This is your weekend update. Well, greetings and welcome to your weekend update. It has been a cold week out there. I keep joking that we'd have to have gone up 10 to 20 degrees for it to become frigid. And Tuesday, when I went out on my route, I took the wrong van. Wrong van as in we got about an inch or so of snow overnight, and I had the one that didn't have all-wheel drive, and it was almost a thing. Fortunately, it's turned around. We made it through the week, despite how cold it was, and this coming week's going to be much, much warmer, so super looking forward to that. So the first thing that we wanted to showcase this week was a podcast that Braden made at CMEA with Jam, who is a student at UNC, at University of Northern Colorado, studying music education. And he was demonstrating the podcasting rig that we have with the P4 and how it could be a vlogging rig and all that. And the conversation turned to things like microphones and proper use of them, but also recording for things like juries and concerts and live streaming. And Jam was lamenting that the standard for what he's been using is, someone with their phone. And obviously that's something that we've really tried to overcome and to educate people on how easy it is to do better than that. So check out the clip from that podcast that Braden made with Jam at CMEA this year.
Well, I can tell you that I've actually used this system to do a couple of concerts for live streaming.
Okay, because I feel like nowadays, especially if you have a small concert hall, you don't want to feel like you're excluding parents if they don't feel safe.
Exactly. And that's really where I think we're kind of heading in society is how do we make a concert live stream that actually will still bring people.
Mm-hmm. It's not just someone's phone, because that's how some of our recital programs go. It's just someone's phone recording a live stream.
And then on the latest episode of Beyond the Stage, which is our podcast slash video podcast on non-performing careers in music, I had the honor of sitting down with Harold Stone at CMEA, and this was part 2 of that conversation. And I've titled it Harold Stone: A Life in Music, because if you know Harold, how do you summarize Harold in any length of time, never mind an hour. And this conversation took some really great directions. It talked about his own daughter's experience trying to become a flautist and the challenges that she had with that and the various jobs that he held. But the overarching theme throughout the entire conversation with Harold had to do with music education. And he was talking about something at the time that was fairly innovative that he was doing, which was gathering some teachers together and having kids try out instruments when they were picking which one they wanted to do. And so I thought that was a great little gem from that conversation. So check out that clip.
Marking in there, whether you could play that right off or whether you couldn't. The greatest thing that I heard little kids say, and these are kids like 4th graders, I think, that were being given the test, and the whole class, we put the whole class through that group, and I watched, and there were like 7 or 8 teachers that actually did this for that particular school. Each one of them were testing. On the other hand, at the end of it, they said, "Oh, we got all 5. You could play anything."
Uh-huh.
Some of these kids couldn't make a sound on a flute or this
Sure.
or that or whatever, and so that was vacant. And at the end of this thing, and they all had this in their hand as they walked out of the room 1 hour later. That's a big step.
And so that was just like the coolest little conversation with Harold, because that's what we do now. And we're in the midst now of the instrument tryout nights. And I was talking about that this week on the View from the Road video. And the overarching theme that I'm trying not to lose sight of, because we've already started these tryouts and they're coming again fast and furious, is the difference in how adults learn versus how kids learn and why, what the motivations are. And I talk about that in this video clip here. So take a look at that. And adults tend to learn skills differently than children, but for different reasons. So adults tend to learn skills to exploit them, meaning you learn how to, do your taxes. You're not doing that because you want to explore what math is like, whereas kids explore. So it's exploiting that adults do versus exploring that kids do. And I want to make sure that we instill this sense of exploration in kids, even after they've chosen their instrument, or at least the one they think they're going to try. It's still an exploration.
We're not trying to teach them to be the next Benny Goodman. We're trying to teach them to love playing their horn and to love making music. I mean,
So I really hope that we continue to capture that sense of amazement and wonder that kids have that first time that they make a sound with an instrument. That's a really special moment, and I'm always honored to get to be a part of that. And that, again, we get some great themes going on this week, leads to this week's essay, which I titled "The Time My Grandfather Saved Me from Drowning with a Glass of Scotch in His Hand," because that actually happened to me. This is when I was younger, and I fell into a pool. I wasn't much older than Sammy, who's now age 4, and I wasn't in for that long, but he was the first one that dove in, and he ended up saving me. And he still had his drink in his hand, and but the problem with that was it created a fear in me of the water, and there was many starts and stops along the way before I finally learned how to swim, and eventually joined Boy Scouts and earned my life-saving merit badge. Well, that is very similar again as these kids are starting their musical journey and trying to figure out what their voice is, whether it's a clarinet or a viola or choir or anything like that. There's going to be starts and stops along the way, and that's okay. The path doesn't have to be straightforward. It doesn't have to be obvious. And as long as they have that opportunity to explore that and participate in the activity, then that's a win for everyone involved. Because as always, we're trying to have people learn to love music through making music. And if we're doing that, we're doing the right thing. So that is your weekend update. As always, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you at the store.
If you enjoyed the Weekend Update, do me a favor and follow us on social media, subscribe to our YouTube channels, or visit our websites. This is Drew with Boomer Music Company and thepodcastingstore.com. Thanks for listening.